The world is unequivocally facing a climate crisis. Singapore is no exception. The projected rise in sea level threatens to flood our low-lying island nation. Warmer days will cause health problems for the young and old and increase occurrences of diseases such as dengue. Our water and food security are also at risk. Young Singaporeans today will bear the brunt of most of these problems tomorrow. By as early as 2045, temperatures could be high as 40 degrees daily. This is why we in the Workers' Party recognize the need to mitigate and adapt to climate change. That starts with our energy use. Singapore has a high carbon footprint per capita due to our economy's reliance on fossil fuels. We propose to reduce Singapore's reliance on fossil fuels by targeting 10% of our energy to come from renewable sources by 2025. We want to see an increase in the use of solar power and energy efficiency. There would also need to be an increase in transparency. Goal setting in the longer term for the share of renewables energy contribution to total energy production and data on emission trends should be published. This will increase awareness amongst the public and allow them to make comparisons against global standards. Responding to climate change will take more than just renewable energy and reducing emissions. It must be a whole-of-a-nation approach. After all, climate change is not an isolated issue and is connected to social and economic developments. As we have seen during this pandemic, our reliance on food exports threatens food security when supply chains break down. Developing local industries not only reduces the amount of carbon expense in the process of food creation, but the resulting diversity in sources builds stronger food security. Addressing climate change would also provide opportunities for job creation and the growth of a more robust and ethical economy. Hence, we need to include a variety of stakeholders in this conversation, not only consumers but also industries. This would allow for implementation of policies surrounding the use of green energy on an industrial level, creating more work opportunities, ultimately creating a green economy. Various Workers' Party MPs have spoken about climate change issues in Parliament, highlighting possible solutions such as protecting our natural environment, strengthening local farming, the adoption of research and development to fight diseases, and the sharing of climate change research. We in the Workers' Party believe in sustainable development that benefits the average Singaporean. The time to address climate change is now.
So Raisa, in your speech earlier, you spoke so passionately about climate change, and we also know that it's something that you've been advocating for a very long time. So I just want to throw the question out to the rest of the panelists here. Do you all think that, climate change will continue to remain a key topic even in a post-COVID-19 world?
Well, I would say that COVID-19 has not actually changed the climate change issue. It's still very relevant to us. In fact, for Singapore, it's even more relevant now than ever before because Singapore is a very low-lying country and climate change will cause sea levels to rise and the rising sea levels will affect us in Singapore. And in terms of COVID-19 and how it affects climate change, I think it would actually in some ways help to accelerate the move towards less emissions and less travel because with telecommuting and teleconferencing being the norm nowadays, I think that's where we will see a reduction in air travel, reduction in the road travel, and that would reduce our emissions in the country. So I think that's a good thing sometimes.
Okay, so Gerald, you've provided an environmental perspective on this, but I think in some quarters when we talk about climate change, there's always the issue of class that comes in as well. Raisa, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think in the past, the conversations around climate change are focused on the consumer, but I think we're seeing a shift from the burden being on the consumer to being on industries, which I think is a positive shift in this country.
So, hot topics like climate change, COVID-19, at the end of the day, they do tend to cast a lens on inequality as a whole.